In the afternoon of May 25th, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang hosted a national teleconference with 100,000 attendees that discussed plans for stabilizing the economy. At the conference, Li warned that China's economy is at a critical point, and that if no decisive action is taken to stop the economy from declining further, there will be dire consequences. Li admitted that China's economic indicators have fallen significantly since March, and especially since April, and the impact is even greater than when the virus broke out in 2020. China's economy has been so bad that it has severely impacted the central government's fiscal revenue, which fell by 5.9% in April, and local fiscal revenue fell even faster by 6.6%. In particular, the Yangtze River Delta region centered on Shanghai, which has been a net contributor to central government revenue in previous years, has seen a significant decline, with the largest drop of 32% and the smaller ones exceeding the national average decrease. Coupled with the suspension of maritime traffic, customs revenue has plummeted, which has seriously affected the overall source of tax revenue. Data show that in the first quarter of this year, only 4 provinces and cities in Shanxi, Fujian, Shanghai, and Inner Mongolia have a surplus in fiscal revenues. The other provinces are in deficit. It revealed that a number of provinces have requested approval for emergency bond issuance to tide them over, but the central government has only one emergency fund left, so unless there is a huge natural disaster, local governments must weather the storm on their own. The unemployment rate also reached 6.1% in April. Prior to this, Communist Party officials mentioned that the unemployment rate for people aged 16 to 24 had reached a record high of 18.2%. Electricity generation, transportation, and new loans were all negative in April, while business dissolution grew by 23.1%. He warned local governments at all levels that economic growth must be positive in the second quarter, and that the unemployment rate must not increase again. Some analysts say that Li Keqiang's speech is a much better reflection of the current economic situation than the official reports of the CCP. Moreover, the theme of this meeting is stabilizing the economy big picture, which is different in nature from the term stabilizing growth used in similar meetings before, indicating that the problem of China's economy is not a matter of how fast or slow the growth is, but that the economy as a whole is in danger of weakening. Economic experts generally believe that the most important cause of China's economic downturn is the dynamic zero prevention and COVID-19 control policies insisted by the Chinese Communist Party. The strict lockdown of the city has brought the core economic regions such as Shenzhen and Shanghai to a near standstill, and has also affected the economies of neighboring provinces such as Jiangsu and Zhejiang, resulting in huge financial losses. Undoubtedly, one of the most important prerequisites for solving the problems facing China's economy is the policy to be adopted for the prevention and control of the virus. And if the CCP continue to adhere to the zero COVID policy, it is basically impossible to achieve what Li Keqiang said to push the economy back to normal. Without any economic activities, unemployment will increase and confidence in investment and consumption will decline, which will further lead to reduced investments, worsening unemployment, lower consumer consumption, and even selling off assets. Such a vicious cycle will definitely bring disastrous consequences to China's economy. The message from Li Keqiang throughout his speech is that he is against the dynamic zeroing policy, which coincides with his previous disagreements with Xi Jinping on this issue. In China today, where people are hurting from the lockdown measures, Li's attitude and thinking are in the interest of the general business community and the public, and thus his speech has been circulated widely on social media. However, Li Keqiang's revelation of the truth about China's economic development, and in front of so many officials, implying that the CCP's zeroing policy was hindering economic development, or pushing back, embarrassed the highest levels of the CCP. Soon, not only was Li's speech heavily redacted from the official media, but on the night of the 25th, the full text of Li's speech circulated on social media began to be wildly deleted. On the 25th, near midnight, the Economic Daily, a newspaper sponsored by the Chinese State Council, suddenly published an article titled "A Comprehensive and Dialectical View of the Current Economic Situation," basically refuting Li Keqiang's speech that afternoon. The next day, People's Daily, Xinhua News, and other major party media reprinted the article in full. The article in the Economic Daily first highlighted what Xi Jinping had said about the economy at the Central Political Bureau meeting not long ago, and said it was of great guiding significance to scientifically judge the situation, comprehensively grasp the overall situation, be firm and confident, overcome difficulties, and achieve high-quality economic development. There was not a word about the content of Li Keqiang's afternoon speech. The so-called scientific judgment of the situation is not only to look at the current difficulties, but also to, quote, understand the inner laws and general trends of China's economy from a longer cycle, and grasp the potential, resilience, strength, and momentum of China's economy. The increase in foreign investment indicates that the Chinese market is still very attractive, so one should have medium and long-term expectations and confidence. One should look at the positive national economic performance in January and February separately from the situation since March, as the latter was affected by the pandemic. So the Chinese economy still shows strong resilience. To support the statement that the fundamentals of China's long-term upturn remain robust, the article also analyzed the situation by citing the strong support of foundation industries, the continuous increase of production and sales of basic living commodities, the growth of consumption and investment, and the increase of high-tech manufacturing industry. It also states that China is still the second largest economy in the world, with a wide margin of maneuver and a large market. Specifically, in terms of economic development at the moment, it is necessary to seek progress in stability, and stability takes precedence. The article's grounds of argument are weak, ignoring the facts and citing data that lack convincingness. The whole article gives people the impression that it is standing on the clouds, continuing to outline an illusory picture of China's economic situation. As for the specific problems mentioned by Li Keqiang, they either do not care or do not acknowledge it. According to the article, it's not a big deal that the economy is experiencing difficulties and that businesses and people cannot survive, as they are only temporary difficulties. It is important to look at the general situation in the future and believe that China's economy has been breaking through, accelerating growth and creating miracles in the midst of various difficulties, pressures, problems, and challenges. The core of the article is not only to deny Li Keqiang's perception of China's economic misery, but also to deny his implication that the zeroing policy has hindered the development of the economy. In other words, the highest CCP level will continue to insist on dynamic zeroing. The redaction and denial of Li Keqiang's speech is not surprising at a time when there are frequent tussles in the top ranks of the CCP, and it shows that Xi is not accepting the disapproval of his zero policy. This also means that Xi still holds the power in his hands. While Li Keqiang is determined to develop the economy, the fundamental problem is not solved. That is, the dynamic zero policy is still in effect, so it's just a wild goose chase. The economy and people's livelihood will continue to deteriorate. A dark humor joke circulating on the Chinese internet recently describes China's current economic situation very graphically. It's like a person being strangled to the point of almost suffocating. The family urgently summoned tens of thousands of famous doctors from all over the country. Some of them said to give the person an injection. Some said to take Chinese medicine, or even go to surgery. But no one asked the one who was strangling the person to let go of his neck. Under the headline, Xi-Li Discord Paralyzes Officials Responsible for China's Economy, published on May 26, Bloomberg also quoted 8 Chinese Communist Party officials as saying that Xi Jinping and Li Keqiang are not on the same page. Bloomberg stated that many government officials responsible for implementing policies have become uncertain about who to listen to when balancing virus control and the economy. The report says while investors and analysts saw Li's meeting as a way to foster consensus on the urgency of reviving the economy, 4 of the senior Communist Party officials said it did not change their view that controlling the pandemic remains a priority. A source told Bloomberg that many senior city officials were absent from Li Keqiang's meeting because they were focused on epidemic prevention, suggesting that virus control still outweighs economic issues. In reality, these officials are acting solely in their personal interest. They say that if the epidemic is not controlled, the hard work of the cadres will be meaningless. That is, they will not be promoted. And the benefits of starting economic projects are limited. It means that Li Keqiang is not able to punish them anyway, so there is no need to listen to him. So ultimately, local officials still listen to Xi Jinping. China affairs commentator Dr. Zhang Tianliang believes that after the 100,000 people's meeting, Li Keqiang's position will become even weaker, and Xi Jinping is looking at Li Keqiang's back coldly, observing who will stand by Li when they disagree. So many people do not dare to seriously carry out the orders of Li Keqiang. From the current political level in China, Xi Jinping must continue his zero policy in order to be re-elected at the 20th National Congress and to create a high-pressure environment in order to prevent opposition forces within the party from stirring up trouble. Li Keqiang, in order to save China's economy, which is on the verge of collapse, must dismiss the zero policy and put the Chinese economy back on track. The battle between Xi and Li is already heating up and is bound to intensify and become irreconcilable in the near future until the 20th Communist Party Congress in November this year. It is unrealistic to expect China's economy to rely on Li Keqiang to save the day in the short term. In the face of the two completely different voices of Xi and Li, many local officials fear that if they make the wrong choice, they may be targeted after the 20th National Congress. As a result, China's economy may not have a definite direction before the 20th National Congress. The chaos caused by such internal struggles in the top echelons of the Communist Party will only make China's economy worse and worse.